meditation, may we pray together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. As a background for the continuation of our thinking together about hatred as one of the defenses of the weak against the strong, I am dividing the time into two sections. The first is an allegory that I want to read. It's a little long, so I ask your indulgence, hoping that your imagination will follow where this leads. A man cried up to God, and God sent down an angel to help the man. And the angel came back and said, I cannot help that man. God said, how is it with him? And the angel said, he cries out continually that someone has injured him, and he would forgive him, and he cannot forgive him. God said, what have you done for him? The angel said, I've done everything. I took him by the hand, and I said, look, when other men speak ill of that man, you speak well of him. Secretly in ways he shall not know, serve him. If you have anything you value, share it with him. So, serving him, you will at last come to feel possession in him, and you will forgive him. And the man said, I will do it. Afterwards, as I passed by in the dark of night, I heard one crying out, I have done everything. It helps me nothing. My speaking well of him helps me not at all. If I share my heart's blood with him, is the burning within me less? I cannot forgive. I cannot forgive. Oh God, I cannot forgive. I said to him, see here, look back on all your past. See from your childhood all smallness, all indirectness that has been yours. Look well at it. In its light, do you not see every man your brother? Are you so sinless? You have the right to hate? He looked and he said, yes, you're right. I too have failed. I forgive my fellow. Go, I'm satisfied. I have forgiven. And he laid him down peacefully and folded his hands on his breast. And I thought it was well with him, But scarcely had my wings rustled and I turned to come up here when I heard one crying out on earth again, I cannot forgive. I cannot forgive. Oh God, 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 I cannot forgive. It is better to die than to hate, hate. But I can't forgive. I can't do it. And I went and I stood outside of the door in the dark, and I heard the man say, I have not sinned, so if I have torn my fellow's flesh ever so little, I have kneeled down and kissed the wound with my mouth till it was healed. I have not willed that any soul should be lost through hate of me. If they have but fancied that I wronged them, I have lain on the ground before them that they might tread on me, and so, seeing my humiliation, forgive and not be lost through hating me. They have not cared that my soul should be lost. They have not willed to save me. They have not tried that I should forgive them. I said to him, all right, be content. Do not forgive. Forget this soul and its injury. Go on your way. In the next world, perhaps. He cried, go from me. You understand nothing. What is the next world to me? I am lost now, today. I cannot see the sunlight shine. The dust is in my throat. The sand is in my eyes. Go from me. You understand nothing. Oh, once again before I die, to see that the world is beautiful. Oh, God, 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 I cannot live and not love. I cannot live and hate. God, God, God. So I left him, crying. And I came back up here. And God said, this man's soul must be saved. And the angel said, how? And God said, you go down and save it. And then God bent down and whispered in the angel's ear, and the angel spread out its wings and went down to earth. Now follow. The angel went down and found the man with the bitter heart and took him by the hand and led him to a certain spot. Now the man wist not where it was the angel would take him, nor what he would show him there. And when they came, the angel shaded the man's eyes with his wing. And when he moved it, the man saw somewhat on the earth before them. For God had given it to the angel to unclothe a human soul, to take from it all those outward attributes of form and color and age and sex, whereby one man is known from among his fellows and marked off from the rest. And the soul lay bare before them, bare as a man turning his eye inwards beholds himself. They saw its past, its childhood, the tiny life with the dew upon it. They saw its youth when the dew was melting. They saw its hopes that were never realized. They saw its hours of intellectual blindness men called sin. They saw its hours of all radiating insight which men called righteousness. They saw its hour of strength when it leaped to its feet crying, I I am omnipotent. Its hour of weakness, when it fell to the earth and grasped dust only. They saw what it might have been, but never would be. And the man bent forward, and the angel said, "What is it?" And he answered, "It is I, it is myself." And he went forward as if he would have laid his heart against it, but the angel held him back and covered his eyes. Now God had given power to the angel further to unclothe that soul, to take from it all those outward attributes of time and place and circumstance, whereby the individual life is marked off from the life of the whole. Again the angel uncovered the man's eyes, and the man looked. He saw before him that which in its tiny drops reflects the whole universe. He saw that which marks within itself the step of the furthest star and tells how the crystal grows underground where no eye has seen it, that which is where the germ in the egg stirs, which moves the outstretched fingers of the little newborn babe and keeps the leaves of the trees pointing upwards, which moves where the jellyfish sail alone on the sunny seas and is where the lichens form on the mountain rocks. And the man looked, and the angel touched him. But the man bowed his head and shuddered. It is God, God. And now the angel recovered the man's eyes. And when he uncovered them, there was one walking from them a little way off. For the angel had reclothed the soul in its outward form and vesture. And the man knew who it was. And the angel said, "Do you know him?" And the man said, "I know him," as he looked at the other man. And the angel said, "Have you forgiven him?" But the man said, "How beautiful my brother is." And the angel looked into the man's eyes, and he shaded his own face now with his wing from the light. He laughed softly and went up to God. But the men were together on the earth. We suggested in the first part of our thinking together about hatred that hatred is the last line of defense for the personality that is under siege. It is positive in the sense of being authentic, in the sense of being present and accounted for. It is positive and sometimes temporarily constructive. For there is a time interval in the manifestation of hatred, as we have been thinking about it, in which the hatred becomes the ground for the validation of the personality in the presence of the unanimous negative judgment of the environment. It provides for an interval, a place upon which to stand, to affirm one's being, in the presence of forces, personal and impersonal, which deny one's being. Hatred is positive, but is ultimately destructive. It is positive and often temporarily constructive. It is positive and ultimately destructive. It is ultimately destructive because, in the first place, it dries up the springs of creativity in the life of the individual, for it dominates the horizon with one overwhelming, simple answer to all that is wrong with life. And this is a deception. It's like, a simple illustration, but a very interesting one, is in the experience of Ahab in Moby Dick, you may recall. All that is demonic in life, all that is frustrating in life, everything that moves contrariwise in life, in the thought of Ahab, was summarized in the movement of the white whale, in the existence of the white whale. And therefore he felt that if somehow he could conquer the white whale, then all the problems, private, personal, social, individual, collective, all the problems would be solved. And he said, as the winds began to blow, threatening the vessel and threatening his life, as he stood on the deck with his wooden leg fastened in the floor, watching the billows rise and fall, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, brow furrowed, he began a very moving soliloquy in which he said, "Let the winds blow. They may dry up the bowels of the sea. They may destroy this vessel. They may consume me, but I can still be ashes." Now, if that which consumes the life, that to which everything else in life is reduced, if that thing is negative and against life, then the logic of such an wholehearted commitment is the destruction of the self. So we come full circle, for when I hate a person, I will that person's non-existence. I will that person's non-being. I will that person's withdrawal from the human race. And the logic of the experience of hate is that my own isolation becomes so complete that I myself seem to myself to be no longer a member of the human race. Now, in terms of religious experience, hatred because of its isolation gives the individual a sense of being cut off from God. For every time the mind and the spirit start moving to the trysting place, there is the image, there is the figure, there are those others that block the way. Over and over and over again, a man may try through all kinds of spiritual etiquette, through a cycling series of many-sided devices, to bypass the object of his hatred and keep his tryst with God. But he can't do it because the figure blocks the way. Now I will come back to that in just a minute at the end. There is a strange, I don't quite know how to say this. There is a strange contradiction or paradox or irony in man's experience with hatred. For the hatred has its own life, its own life cycle, its own fundamental scheme, its own inner propriety, its own logic, its own results. And even though, as a result of my response, or as a result of that which I have suffered, and even though in my effort to develop scar tissue to ease the agony that I may go on with my life, and in this effort I release hatred, which logically may be consistent with the deed that has been inflicted upon me, nevertheless, the moment the hatred is released, the hatred begins to function as hatred functions. It does not know anything at all about the reasons why it came into being. It is completely unmindful of the logic of this, or the justification, or even the morality of it. The only thing that hatred knows is to reproduce itself in kind, over and over and over and over again. And this leads me then to say that a part of our great and central responsibility in the living of our lives, if we undertake to live them under the aegis of the gospel of God, we must not only take responsibility for the things that we do, the positive direct act, bottoming the private act, the individual deed with the integrity of the self. We must not only do this, but we also must take responsibility for our reaction to the circumstances, to the events, to the people by whom we are surrounded. I am responsible to God not only for what I do to you, but I am responsible to God for my reaction to you for what you do to me. And sometimes with all my heart, I wish that this were not so. The kind of burden that must be carried, because your life is under a mandate that makes your responses to your environment in accordance with the integrity of your commitment to life. So the exhilaration and the release that comes from being able to express in terms of response to environment a wild and unrestrained vitality, unchanneled by any moral responsibility that grows out of the sense of responsibility for one's response. But this is an indulgence that God does not permit us. So, I must take two steps. This is as far as I will go. I must somehow develop a desire to desire. To be rid of my hatred and to enter into community. And this is hard. I do not know all of the skilled ways or any of the skilled ways by which the manipulation of a man's insides can bring to pass this new purpose, this new desire. I don't know enough to know how this is done. I do know, however, that again and again men have discovered that when they are able to lay bare their lives, to the scrutiny and to the judgment and to the will of God, when they are able to make as an offering to God the unwillingness to renounce the hate and to include in this offering some faint, though it be, expression to God that he may find a way by which there may be created in us a desire to forgive. Now, I do not know outside of the religious experience how this can be done. I'm sure that there must be ways that more skilled people with others' insides than I am can determine. But I know this. And I know this from my own life. I know God can do this. God can. Look. With such intensity into the human heart that what God is will be born in the human heart and will grow and a man will be able to deal with another man even as God deals with man. And then the second step becomes inevitable. I must put at the disposal of the new creation in me all of the resources of my mind and personality, all of the resources that are at the disposal of the sensitive mind and spirit, the skills and the techniques and the methods that will enable me to re-establish the hated person into the human race. So that in my relationship with him, it is no longer open season. He moves from the area that is not a part of my magnetic moral field into that area which is a part of my moral awareness. And perhaps when I do this, and not until then, is the way open for it to be, to me, a reasonable thing to love him. And if I am unable to do this, all the prayers and the tears and the beating of breasts will not avail. He must be brought back into the human race. And then I become available to him and he becomes available to me. And in that encounter, it is possible to develop a new quality of relatedness. And all of this, to the man or to the group that's fighting for his life, all of this insistence of Jesus that you love your enemy seems to take from the individual and the group its last line of defense. But I think that's a delusion. But for anyone who's standing in that situation, I have no right to say that that is a delusion. We have tried our Father to make articulate the stirring of the mind and heart that's just out of reach. We make as an offering to thee even our failure. Walk beside us in our journeying and leave us not alone, even to the devices of our own minds and spirits, but be in us and about us forever and ever.